Hi everyone, welcome back to Job 1 for All. The topic of this video will be Varargs. So what is Varargs? Nothing like an example to understand how it works and what it is. Before we start with Varargs, let's go to the calculator class and let's see something that we didn't see yet. How do we pass arrays? Let's create a method here inside the calculator class that will sum integer numbers. Basically, I'm just going to get all the numbers inside an array and I will print the sum of these numbers. So public void sum array, and the same way we did before to create arrays, I need to create a reference for an array. Basically, we are just doing the same here, and the object that is the array will come as a reference here. Now, basically, we can create a variable called sum, and we start this variable with 0, and then for, and we use for each. The reference variable we call num, and now sum will get its value, and then it will sum the value that it has in memory with the num. And I will just print here the sum. Pretty straightforward, just getting all the numbers inside an array, and I'm summing up, and then I'm printing this value. Now let's create here a new class called calculator. This is test05. ESPM. Remember, we need calculator. We only have one, so we create a reference variable and then an object. Like we did that like 5 times now. And we need to call calculator.sumArray. Now we need an array here, and we know how to create arrays, and we know the easiest way is to declare and initialize directly, comma separated. And I will say that I'm sending, remember, arrays are reference. So basically you are sending a reference to the array that numbers is having a reference to. So everything that we spoke about as a reference and changing the values itself, it applies here. Ctrl Shift F10, and we have the sum of all these numbers. Now, pretty straightforward, but we do have another thing that's called Varargs. That's basically a purified version of arrays when we are talking about getting parameters. Let me show you how that works. Let's go back to calculator, and I will copy this whole method, and I will show you that's basically the same thing. So instead, and I will change the name, of course. So instead of having the array, the syntax here, I will just delete the brackets and I will add 3 dots. So this is the syntax for Varargs. You cannot have, because arrays you can have it, the brackets either here or here, but you cannot have the same for Varargs. You cannot have the 3 dots at the end. You need to have directly into after the type. And if I execute this sum Varargs, I will just press Ctrl D to duplicate this line, sum Varargs, and I will just send the numbers, and you will see that it will work. Because behind the scenes, Varargs is just changing whatever we have to arrays. But how is the syntax differs from the regular array? With Varargs, we can send comma separated directly into the method. Because, for example, arrays, you cannot send the array directly here, like this. Or like we did for Varargs, you cannot do that. For arrays, you need to create an array, or even like this. So, if we're talking about syntax, there are some people that will find the Varargs actually prettier than creating an array and send the reference, but some people will prefer sending the array. And if we execute, we will see that we have the same result. So behind the scenes, Java is changing this values that we have and putting them inside one array. And to prove that, I will just go back to calculator, put a breakpoint, Shift F9, and then you can see here that this is just an array of integers. Now, there are some rules that we have to be careful. First, you cannot have two Varargs. It doesn't matter, you could have different values. You cannot have. Why? Because how would Java know when to stop and start in the next one? Even if you have different types, it will not work. You can have more than one parameter, but the parameter cannot be right after the Varargs. If you want to have multiple parameters, they need to come before. And if I execute now, you will see the value 14. Why is that? Because basically they are assigning, and you can see here that IntelliJ is telling us this V is the name of the attribute that I have here. So if I change this to value, it will change here to value. So it's just a reference for you to know what you are sending to and where you are sending. So I'm saying this one to value, and then the rest it's going to the array numbers. So basically that's why you can have multiple values here, but the Varargs necessarily needs to be the last one. So we have one problem because we would need to send a string right here in between, and then this would work. So these are the rules for Varargs. They are pretty straightforward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And one last thing is that, for example, since we can have these receiving arrays as well, we could change. So inside our public static void main, we could change this to Varargs, and then if we execute, we have the same result. So in the end, it's just a different way to receive arguments in your method. Okay, that's enough information. I see you in the next video. Bye.